Well, certainly appreciate everybody's time today. We're going to walk through a brief overview of Airwatch and a live demonstration of our web-based management console. So just a quick agenda, running through a PowerPoint, give you an overview, high level of Airwatch and the capabilities that we have to help managing your enterprise mobile devices. And then, as I mentioned before, we'll go through a live demo of the actual console. So we'll jump right in here. A little bit about Airwatch, about 8,000 customers now. The space is certainly growing at a tremendous pace, and so we're adding anywhere from 500 to 600 new customers every single month. We are a global company with a global footprint, managing devices in over 150 countries now, and the console and the different applications we have developed are supported in 18 different languages. So as you think about your organization and your base, we can certainly support it, whether it's here or overseas. And right now we're up to about 1,400 employees. So certainly as our customer base grows, having the employee count right there with it to support those customers and to support innovation is key. So our management team and leadership has expertise in building and scaling an enterprise-grade solution, especially in the mobility space, as they have all come over from Manhattan Associates, where they took an organization from the ground up to over 2,000 employees. So that includes anywhere from our chairman down to our CEO and the rest of the management team. So I mentioned our size, and I did so because it does make us the largest enterprise mobility management provider in the space. And really, why is that important to you as you look at vendors is that size and scale matters in software, and certainly having over 1,400 employees dedicated to the solution, and having close to 450 now solely focused on research and development is going to be key, as Airwatch is able to be first to market and only to market with certain functionality. And then we've got dedicated teams within that research and development group that are dedicated to the iOS, dedicated to the Android market, and even within the Android market, being dedicated to having a team dedicated to the Samsung version, one to the HTC version, as you can see there. So it's allowed us to build very good partnerships with the OEMs, and that 450 people in R&D alone is bigger than our closest competitor's entire organization. So you can see that we're dedicated to really being the innovator and the leader in the space. And with that being said, our mission here is really to simplify enterprise mobility, both for you as the administrator of the console, but also for the end users, so that they'll adopt it, make it simple for them, and really enable them on their mobile devices to receive these corporate resources. So it really takes a lot of technology and a lot of resources to really simplify that process. In terms of industry recognition, these third-party analysts have had a lot of great things to say about Airwatch. I can tell you all day how great we are, but really, what do they say when they look at all the different vendors and rack and stack them? Gartner's, of course, have great things to say. The last 3 years, we've been the only one that's consistently been in the far right corner of their Magic Quadrant and the Leaders Quadrant. And Forrester has named us really as an innovator, both for our cloud-hosted or our on-premise solutions. So feature functionality set's going to be the same whether you host in our cloud or you host in-house. We really just leave it up to a customer preference there. So I would encourage you to go out and reach some of these reports and do some reading on your own to kind of see how the different organizations stack up against each other. But you'll find that Airwatch is certainly a leader in the space. Just some representative customers here, really just to show that it's really across all different verticals here. It's not specific to one vertical. It's not specific to one size over an organization. We've got organizations that have 20 devices deployed with us, and then we have organizations that have upwards of a couple 100,000 devices. So it's a simple solution. It works for all different deployment types. So keep that in mind, that it's not really geared towards one versus another vertical here. So some differentiators for us just as an organization and kind of who we are. We feel, as I mentioned before, and based on the industry research, that we are the leader in enterprise mobility space. We have expertise in building and scaling enterprise solutions. So kind of death by 1,000 cuts, having done this before, our management team has come from mobility over the last 20 years and have seen really what does it take to build an enterprise-grade solution. And so that has really been fortunate for us. We're more than twice the size of many other companies, so again, size and scale is so crucial in a software solution, and we have dedicated teams and resources that are going back into R&D. So as we get the same APIs as many other vendors do, really what differentiates us is what do we do with them once we get them in-house. So by developing internal applications to bring advanced functionality to our customers. That's what really separates us, we feel, from the marketplace. Again, international presence, really fast-growing customer base, again, across all different verticals. So it's not better for one vertical versus another. It really goes across the scale there. And we did receive our first Series A funding earlier in February. And what that really allowed us to do is to really separate ourselves from the marketplace, we feel like, and really put a lot of that investment back into the organization to build out our content management solution, to continue to push in application management. And we really felt like the best time to get money was when we really didn't need it. So just a way for us to continue to kind of put the pedal down and really grow the business and really separate ourselves. From a technology platform perspective, just to give you a quick glance here, really at the core and foundation of what Airwatch is, it's security, it's multi-tenancy, and it's scalability. And we'll get into each of these in a little bit more detail as we go through the overview. But we have the ability to tie into existing enterprise solutions that you have in place. So you've made IT investments. We might as well make use of them. That way you don't have to reinvent the wheel inside of your Airwatch environment. So anything from your directory services like Active Directory, LDAP, if you have an internal PKI or certificate infrastructure, content repositories, your Exchange or email infrastructure, really anything you see here we can tie in directly to. We've got the hooks to do that, and then we can make use of it inside that Airwatch environment. Now, from a device perspective, we really view the space really as enterprise mobility management now, different than before when it was just really looked at as MDM. We see MDM as a component of the overall mobility management platform. So in that, we see MDM, the device management. We see MCM, which will be the content management piece of the solution. MEM is the email management, and of course, MAM is the application management that we do within the solution. So really what you have here is a tightly integrated platform. It's all built in one unified code base. So it really all works nicely together, and you can see it all from one single pane of glass. And then, of course, the ability to administer asset tracking, monitor the devices, and then tons of reporting capabilities so that these reports are already built into the system. All you have to do is go subscribe to them, and you can have them emailed to you on a certain day at a certain time, even in a certain format of whatever information is important to you within the system. So it's going to be a lot of great business intelligence information. So let's talk some differentiators from really a product perspective. Really we feel like within the product we're really driving thought leadership, again, back to that large R&D team, 450 folks that are really solely dedicated to bringing, additional functionality that maybe is not found in the marketplace. So as we get the same APIs from Apple and Google, really what differentiates us from a product perspective is what we do with those APIs when we get them in-house, building out internal apps, additional functionality. And then certainly, as I mentioned before, security is really a focus, and it's at the core of what we do with our product development team. Multi-tenancy is certainly key and a big differentiator for us. So the idea here is that you don't have to have an all or nothing policy. You can have different configurations and policies for device A versus device B. So we found that within organizations, where you fall in the organization, what business unit you're in, you might need different apps, different content, different access to the network, so we give the ability to do that from the one single pane of glass console here. And then again, seamless integration into your existing enterprise system. So you've made these investments. We have a huge play in the ecosystem, so we're probably already integrated with most of the technology partners that you have in place. If not, we have a robust set of APIs that we can make available to different partners so that we can integrate into the existing systems you have in place. Again, rapid development team, so we can respond to industry changes. So we can be very agile and kind of redirect our R&D team if we need to. We've had customers who have requested certain parts or certain functionality to be built into the solution, and we've been able to very quickly respond and get that built into the solution with that large R&D team that we have in place. Again, flexible deployment, so same feature and functionality set. It's identical. It's really purely a customer preference on whether you host in our cloud environment or you keep Airwatch hosted in-house there. So again, same-day support for latest platform releases. A great example is iOS 7 was just released. We had same-day support for it. Our deep partnerships with the different OEM vendors allowed us to have all the APIs and to have the functionality built into the solution, so that the day that your customers or your end users want to have the latest and greatest technology, we're there to support it. There's no waiting 15, 30, 45 days to be able to get that. So continuing to move along here, We'll talk mobile security. So from a security perspective, what can you do on the devices themselves? Things like enabling multi-factor authentication. Of course, encrypting the corporate data. As you push down this information to the devices, whether it's a corporately owned or even more importantly, an employee-owned or BYOD device, you want to make sure that your corporate information is secure, it's encrypted. And so we support that here and allow you to do that. Again, supporting different certificate infrastructures, whether it's an internal one or a third-party one. And from here, basically, we can push down those certificates to the devices from the console. So remotely pushing those down for authenticating a user to enroll or to set up their email or Wi-Fi or VPN or whatever it may be, you can issue and renew and revoke the certificates right from the console. And the big one here is going to be the ability to remotely wipe a device. So a couple of different ways to do this. Our enterprise or selective wipe is just going to pull your corporate configurations, corporate data, applications, content off the device. It's going to leave everything else intact. So for BYOD, this is crucial because you certainly don't want to go through and erase somebody's personal data, content, pictures, whatever it may be. So it'll just unenroll them from Airwatch, get your corporate information off their device, and let them go on their way with their personal information on that device. So moving into some newer technology for us, this mobile access gateway, or it's basically app tunneling or a proxy back to your internal infrastructure. And so the device can connect back to that without the use of a VPN. So a great example is if you want to be able to allow your users to hit like your intranet site or an internal SharePoint site. Without the use of a VPN, the device can just communicate directly back to that infrastructure utilizing our Airwatch browser and be able to gain access to that. So it's a great end user experience for the employee just to be able to quickly hit that link and go back to that site without having to wait for a VPN to kick on. I mentioned our browser, so you can utilize this for more granular control over what your end users are browsing on the internet. So a couple different modes you can run this in. The restricted mode, it's really kind of a whitelist, blacklisting. So you could whitelist, hey, these are the only URLs you're allowed to access, or vice versa. Maybe there's just a few you want to blacklist. We can also run this in a kiosk mode, so virtually locking it down to one URL. So great application for inside of a retail store or something like that, where you just want it to be able to navigate to the page for that store and not anywhere else, any other websites to be hit. Or a proxy mode where we can virtually proxy the traffic through a corporate server that you might have in place. But a great way to, maybe you want to disable the native Safari browser and just utilize our Airwatch browser here. Certainly there's flexibility and options for you to do that. So from a mobile device management perspective, what can we do? We can extend these policies down to the devices over the air. So upon enrollment, maybe a passcode policy pushes down to the device so we can get full encryption on the device. And enable the enterprise resources to push down. So email comes down. The different applications you want to make available to them will then push down. The content will then push down to them. And we can assign these profiles and policies based on a lot of different things, like on device types. So you might want to have different policies for your iOS users, different from your Android users, different from your Windows Phone 8 users, different from your laptop users. So we can base them on device type. We can also base this on ownership type. So is this a corporate dedicated? The corporation owns this device, and we're just going to configure it and give it out to the user. You might be a little bit more stringent on what you give them access to or some of the passcode requirements. But for your BYOD or your devices that the employee owns and they're just bringing in for corporate resources, you might want to be not quite as stringent on those because they do own the device. You just want to configure their email for them and not really have any interaction with their personal information, personal applications, that sort of thing. So from the console, we give the ability to do that. Or we can assign profiles based on groups. So like I mentioned before, where based on job function or where you fall within a business unit, you might have different configurations. So your top level executives might be in an executive level group where they get certain policies, certain apps, certain content, certain access to the back-end infrastructure, and somebody in sales or marketing or HR might get a totally different subset of policies down to them. So giving you that flexibility to assign it how you want to. It doesn't have to be an all or nothing assignment. So, and then we're also automating a lot of the IT processes and workflows. And I'll show you how we manage this through our compliance engine once we get into the live demo of the console and take a lot of the burden off of the IT team there. From an email management perspective, this is going to be dependent on which email infrastructure you have, but we have the ability to, virtually play traffic cop for you. So we will sit in between the devices and the email server and we can allow or block users based on the email policies that you set up and that you put in place. And we'll monitor that traffic then 24/7 and make sure that the right users are getting access to corporate emails. So if you wanted to set up an email policy that said, hey, only users that are enrolled into the Airwatch service now actually can get corporate email, we can sit there and detect that. If they're not enrolled in Airwatch, we can block access until they go through the enrollment process, and then we would then configure the corporate email on that device. We also have some more advanced security features around email, which are unique, where we can encrypt email attachments. So, certainly a lot of critical business information is now passed through email via attachments, and those are viewed on mobile devices. So we have the ability to encrypt those with a unique encryption code, and then force those email attachments to be opened into one of our internal apps, which we call our secure content locker, which is an encrypted container where you then can have control over it. So they couldn't go open that email attachment out into a third-party app and save it, into some cloud storage, or they couldn't forward it out to like a Gmail account and then be able to view that application. So again, really making sure that your sensitive corporate data is protected. From an application management perspective, the ability to push applications, whether they're internal, whether they're public, or whether maybe you purchase a bulk of licenses through the Apple Volume Purchase Program or the other purchasing programs out there. So upon enrollment, certain applications would push down to the device based on, again, what kind of device it is it a corporate-owned or an employee-owned device, or what group do they fall in? So again, you can be granular on how apps are pushed down to devices. Or we give organizations the ability to build a custom enterprise app catalog. So upon enrollment, this app catalog would just push down to the device, much like an app store, and then you can send your users to go in there and download applications on demand. And so you can fully customize this catalog, so you can have categories that are, hey, these are the public apps we recommend for you, or here's the internally developed apps we have, please go download these, or we bought an application for you via the Apple Volume Purchase Program, please go into the app catalog and download it from there. And so you can custom brand this to give it the look and feel of your own infrastructure. So to your end users, it looks like something that you guys have developed and built out for them. And then there's also the ability to have feedback and ratings on applications. So if you built an internal application and all your end users are starting to utilize it, they can actually go in there and give feedback. Hey, this is a great application. Everybody should go download it. So it gives a really interactive experience for the users. Again, we can whitelist and blacklist applications. So if there are certain applications you don't want to have on the device while they're having access to corporate resources, you can blacklist certain applications there. We have advanced application management by using our software development kit, so you can inject the MDM functionality into those applications that you build out. So forcing the user to authenticate before they access an internal application, getting compromise detection, giving you logging and analytics on that application. So if you spend a lot of money building an application, you probably want to know, how are the users using this application? Are they using it? And that's going to give you that critical business intelligence, so maybe you can go back and tweak that internal app or make a change to it. So a lot we can do here with application management. Of course, we integrate to the various app stores, and then we can also track applications. So what apps does a user have on their device? What version do they have on that device? Do you want to make sure that they have the latest version? You can have visibility into that and then maybe push out that newer version, or have them go download that newer version from that app catalog that you built out. Content management, a lot really going on here. Again, I mentioned that secure content locker, and to give you a feel for really what it is, we worked with United Airlines to really, as the forefront of building out this secure content locker, where previously all their pilots would carry around, I'm sure you've seen them wheel briefcases through the airport. Inside that briefcase is all their flight maps, all their airport terminal maps, really all the information they need, but it was all in paper form, and they wanted a better way to manage through that. So in working with them, we built the secure content locker. Again, it's an AES 256-bit encrypted container that we can push content down to. So now you'll see these pilots and mini pilots across all the different airlines carrying around iPads now. And so the pilots can then log into that iPad, into the secure content locker, and have all that information on an iPad now. A very slim iPad as opposed to lugging around a briefcase with those flight manuals and airport maps in them. And we can do it in a secure manner. So only the right people get access to the right content, and we can instantaneously upload new content. So whereas before the pilots were having to go every 10 days, 14 days to print out another 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 pages, now they can just instantaneously get the latest update that they need. So obviously there's a lot of use cases for this. A lot of organizations utilize this for their sales folks now who are out in the field that want to be able to access content that's typically internal content, but you can make it available to them now in that secure manner and have control over it. So we can integrate directly to SharePoint or network shares or Google Drive or whatever content repositories you currently have in place, we can integrate directly with. So as a user enrolls or logs into the content locker, then their content specific to them based on who they are and where they fall within the organization or what their permissions are, they'll have that content available to them. So, really a lot we're doing here with content management. We also have a two-way desktop sync client. So you could be working on your desktop on a piece of content and actually sync it back to all your devices via our Airwatch sync client. So another great way to make sure that when you're on the go, you're out in the field, you can still get the latest versioning of content on your mobile device when you're out there. So full support of BYOD, we're seeing a lot now whether organizations are going to a straight BYOD initiative or maybe some sort of hybrid of, hey, we own a certain amount of corporate devices, but we do have some sort of employee-owned devices still out there. So again, supporting all the different operating systems and latest device models. So we see new devices hitting the market every 14 days. So having the team in place, like our big R&D team, to be able to support the various models is certainly important so your employees can choose what devices they want to use, what they feel most comfortable using. And then making enrollment easy for them. So they're not going to want to bring in their own employee, their own device if it's not easy to enroll and to get their corporate information on. So we've streamlined the enrollment process down to virtually clicking on a URL, putting in their existing AD or LDAP credentials, and then getting that corporate information pushed down to the device. And then like we talked about before, we can manage these devices totally different than you would a corporately owned device and push down less stringent policies or different applications or different content or different access based on the fact that it's owned by the employee. And then we can protect the employee's privacy by what we collect on that device. So we can isolate the corporate and the personal information. So from an administrative perspective, you wouldn't even be able to see into maybe what personal applications they have on the device. You're not going to track their GPS. You're not going to track their telecom information. So we have the ability to do that. We also have our new workspace application now where we can virtually give it a dual persona without even really it being in full MDM management. So within this container, the workspace, you can push down to them their corporate email, their corporate applications. You can push down our Airwatch secure content locker so they have that corporate content available to them. But there's no bleeding in between their corporate information and their personal information. So that's another option to help in supporting in BYOD. And then a big thing is mitigating the risk on the business side. So for the organization, how do we work with this the way that we need to? So we can use a custom terms of use to, upon enrollment, the user would actually have to accept the terms of use. And within that terms of use that's fully customizable by, maybe your legal or your HR department is, what are we going to be managing on the device? What are we going to have visibility into? So right there up front before a user goes to enrollment, you're going to let them know, hey, we're not going to track your GPS or your telecom or your personal apps. We just want to push down these certain configurations. And so you get a timestamp and location of them accepting that in terms of use. And then we add the idea here of self-service management. We have a self-service portal, which I'll show you in the live demo, where a user can actually log in from any computer, any browser, log into the self-service portal and have some management capabilities over their own device. So not only does it help them on the go, it takes some of the burden off of the IT team where they could go in and clear their own passcode. They could go in and remotely lock or enterprise wipe their device or locate their device. So a lot of capabilities that traditionally the IT team would have to help them with, they could then now go in and do themselves. There's some telecom management capabilities built in the solution, so you can track roaming, data usage, text, calls to help with bill shock. We can turn off and on roaming. There's lots of real-time reports that you can get, so a lot we can do here with telecom management as well. Talked before about integrating to existing enterprise system. Here's kind of a nice picture of really the different things that we're able to tie into, from directory services, as I mentioned, certificates, email, content repositories, really whatever it may be that you have in place we can tie into. Email integration, so different models here based on what your email infrastructure looks like, but to give you that advanced control and security over what users have access to, who gets access to email to make sure that the right people are getting it. So to give you really a picture here of what the multi-tenancy looks like, this is just a key differentiator for our solution in terms of, maybe you have a top-level group, and then you build out your groups based on, it could be geography, so maybe you, in North America, or you have multiple offices within North America, you could have, your users set up based on that. Or you could have it by business units. I've seen a lot of organizations who, again, at the top level is executives all the way down to sales, marketing, HR, whatever it may be, you can assign policies and profiles based on the business units that you have, so you can get specific information down to the specific set of users. In terms of logging and reporting, lots of capabilities here. Over 450 different events are tracked, both on the device level and from the console. So you're going to get information on what an end user did on their device, downloaded an app, downloaded a piece of content, unenrolled their device. And that's going to be reported in the web console, so you have that for logging and archiving purposes, as well as from the console perspective. So if there's ever a question on what happened to an end user's device, you can go in and see what action was taken from the console. So was the device wiped? Was it not wiped? What time was it? That sort of information for archiving purposes. From a deployment perspective, touched on this before, again, cloud or on-prem, the feature and functionality set is identical. Lots of training and support options here. I'll show you what this looks like live, but there's self-service training available. We open up our internal knowledge base to our customers, so you can virtually search the same information that I can to get information. Within there, you'll find announcements on upcoming releases, new functionality out, frequently asked questions, how-tos. There's tons of videos that are set in there. We have a training calendar for webinars, so those will be live webinars, or there's on-demand training available. So if there's a certain topic that you want more information on, chances are we've done a webinar on it, and then you can log into it and get that help kind of on your time and when your schedule permits. And then global support, so really a follow-the-sun type mentality here. So again, as I mentioned, we're global, have offices all over the world. Our headquarters is here in the U.S. in Atlanta. But again, 24/7, 365 support here. So if you need help, we're there. Whether you call in, we also have a live chat option that is from within your console. You can be live chatting with one of our technical consultants and troubleshoot an issue while you're actually inside of your environment. Or you can email in and submit requests to our team, and they'll respond back to you in the same fashion. So